I have been playing around with the heat foil tools from Silhouette. They work in the Cameo 5, the Portrait 4, and the Curio 2. Yes, all of the new machines. They are absolutely amazing, and I want to show you exactly how to use them and what materials you can use them on. Hi, I'm Brenda Lambert. I'm a TJC licensed instructor for Silhouette. You found your way to Silhouette success. I do hope that you're planning on joining our little community. I put out weekly videos with tips, tricks, tutorials, inspiration, all of the things. So if that's something you're interested in, please hit the subscribe button down below and turn on notifications so you can stay in the loop. We're going to start by simply putting the tools in the machine and getting them turned on. You want to give them time to heat up while you're preparing your other stuff. When you buy the heat foil tools from Silhouette, they come in a package of 2. One of them is a fine tip. It's a little bit hard to see on video. The other one is a wide tip. And you want to choose your tool accordingly. I almost always use the fine tip, but if you have a larger design that needs to be filled in more, then you're going to want to use the wide tip. I'll be using the Cameo 5 today. It is powered on and ready to go. The heat foil tools go in the second slot on the blade carriage. It has a special power adapter strip along the top here, and the metal prongs on the back of the tool go into that slot. You want to make sure that your tab is pulled out. Set the tool all the way in and put a little bit of pressure on top while you press the tab in. When your heat foil tool is in your machine properly and you go to the send panel, this box will pop up. It says heat pen is detected, and it asks if you would like to turn it on now or turn it on later. If you have your design all set, you can turn it on now. If you still have to work on your design, you're going to want to turn it on later. It does take a few minutes to heat up, but you don't want it on for an excessive amount of time. You don't want to burn it out. I don't know if that's a thing, but I don't want to take any chances either. I'm going to click on later for right this minute because I wanted to show you that you can go to carriage 2, and here it says heat pen detected. Here it says sketch. If I turn this to auto foil, this little thermometer pops up here, and I can click on this to turn the heat pen on. Now it says the heat pen is heating. Click to turn off. It also says that it's heating down by my little Cameo icon here, and the machine will not allow me to do anything until this is done heating. You can see here that the pause light is blinking on the machine. Once the tool has heated, this will stop flashing and you'll be able to continue on with your project. The light on the heat foil tool is on. It's lit up in red, and it will stay lit up in red as long as the tool is on. For today's video, I am going to be using the heat foil pen with faux leather. This is the first time I've used it on faux leather, and there was some trial and error, but it went really well and it looks amazing. This is the design that I'm using, and I did have to make some modifications to it. Let's go up to File and down to Merge. I'll be using the SVG file today, so I'm going to double click on that. It brings the file in. Now this is not grouped together. That's okay because I want to get rid of this bottom part here. It's too much for a little beanie tag, in my opinion. Right click and delete. I did try it once with these letters exactly like this, and it was just too much. It was too close together for the heat foil tool once I shrunk it down. So I ended up going with just the outline and the letters like you see here. So I'm going to right click and release the compound path. Now this looks like kind of a mess, but we just need to grab the outside of the letters, and we're going to delete them in a minute. I just want to make sure I'm grabbing the right layer. Now I can select all of these pieces, right click and make a compound path. You can see that it did go to just the outline except for this piece in the middle of the R. I don't want that either. So once again, I'm going to right click, release the compound path, grab just that center piece and drag it away. I know it's a little hard to see. Let's select all of our pieces again, right click and make a compound path. That looks a lot better. Now I'm going to select literally and freezing, right click and group them together, shrink it down just a bit and grab a rectangle for my patch and draw that out. And I want the patch to be a little bit smaller than this one. I did 2 inches by 3 inches originally and it was a little bit large. So let's do 2.5 inches wide. Let's unlock our aspect ratio and do 1.5 inches tall. That is quite a bit smaller. We'll have to see how it goes. This is the one that I did originally, and it looks okay. I think it's just a little bit large for this beanie in particular. It takes up a lot of space on the front. So we're going to go a bit smaller. Let's bring literally freezing to the front. Slide that up in here and get it scaled to size. We can select both of these and use our center button up at the top. That way we know it's perfectly placed there. And I'm going to go ahead, right click and group these together and pull it out just a little bit. I'm afraid it's going to be too small. Let's see if we can work with that. Now I'm going to ungroup it because I need to work on the lettering. Let's select that and go to our Specialty Tools panel that's up underneath the Page Setup panel. All of the specialty tools are at the top. The fourth one over is your heat pen. So let's click on that and you will see that you have some different options to fill the lettering in. I'm going to go with a lined embossing pattern for this. You can play around and select whichever one you think will be best for your design. And we can zoom in on that a little bit. I think that's going to be okay. Again, this is going to be a very small design with very thin lines. I don't think we need too much fill going on. When everything looks the way we want it, we're going to go ahead and release the heat pen fill. So let's click on that. Let's fit this back to the window, select both of our pieces, and I'm going to move this down to the bottom of the mat. Not all the way, but this positioning is important because we want it to do the heat foiling first, and then we want it to cut. But in between those two steps, we're going to have to remove the foil from the design. So we're going to foil, and then the mat will come out of the machine enough to where you can remove the foil from the leather patch, and then we can go through and send it back through. We're not going to remove the mat. You're going to send it back through for the cut after that. So let's go over to the send page. You can see that everything is coming out as a cut. It's all lit up in red. That's not what we want. We don't want anything to cut right now. So let's select both pieces and click on no cut. We're going to select just the lettering and select foil. Now you can see down here that there is no carriage 2 compatible foil action for this material. So let's go ahead and click on more. We're going to add a setting. Go all the way down and click on the plus sign. I'm going to call this Heat Foil Cameo 5. Now with this selected, I'm going to go down to the bottom and edit settings for Cameo 5 series and Portrait 4. Let's click on that. We can go over to Carriage 2. Carriage 2 is set to craft cut. That is not what we want. We need to add an action. Let's click on the plus sign and add foil action. Now you can see that it has brought in these settings, but we cannot save. So you need to change something about these. And I'm going to just bump the acceleration up by 1 and click on save. And now I'm going to go over to the craft cut and remove the action. We're not trying to cut here, we're trying to foil. So we do not need this here. Let's click on remove. And now carriage 2 just has the foil action. It also has the carriage 1 set to cut. We don't need that either. We can remove this action as well. This warning box pops up, says it's going to delete the division. Removing this action will delete the division carriage 1. That's okay. I'm going to go ahead and click on delete. Now we can close out our material settings here. And for carriage 2, we can switch over to our new setting. Scroll all the way down. Here's heat foil cameo 5. Let's click on that. And our warning goes away. You can see there is no blade depth. There's a force of 15, 1 pass, and a speed of 5. I'm just going to use a little scrap piece of leather that I have. This is faux leather, and I'll put a link to all of my materials in the description of the video so that you can find them if you want to do this project for yourself. Now, in setting up the mat, we need to remember that we put our patch down in the bottom corner. I went 1 inch up and 1 inch in. So I'm going to set my patch so that it covers that area on the grid with a little bit of wiggle room, because I need to tape the edges with the foil. And if there's tape over the foil where we want the design, it's not going to come out clearly. So this is where I have my design set, and there's extra edge all around there for the tape. I am using an extremely sticky mat for this. Typically when I cut faux leather, I like the leather side to be face down, but since we're foiling, we cannot do that. We need to put the fabric side down on the mat, and that's going to cause issues if your mat is not very sticky. The next thing you want to do is use a brayer. If you have one, this sticks the leatherette to the mat very well. I'm using the Silhouette heat foil. It comes in rolls. They are 3 inches wide and 33 feet long, so you get quite a bit on these. We're just going to measure how much we need and trim this to fit. It was a little bit bigger than I needed it, but that's okay. Now, we need to tape the foil down so that it is tight and flat against the leather. I'm using regular masking tape. You can get other tape from Silhouette for heat foiling, but regular masking tape works, and it is a lot cheaper. You will probably still have some wrinkles in your foil. This should be okay, but I want you to notice that I did catch the foil and the edge of the faux leather with the tape. That's going to add a little bit of stability and help the leather to stick to the mat more as well. We're going to load our mat, same as always, and head back to Silhouette Studio. We are still in the send page, and I always like to double check that my stuff is right. I am not cutting anything at this point. My lettering is lit up in blue, which means it is going to foil. My heat pen is ready, so I can click on send. We're going to send again. Now, anytime you are working with the heat foil tools, the sketch pens, anything that needs a fill pattern, it does take a little bit of time. It has to do each one of those fill lines and the outline individually. So these are projects that you have to have a little bit of patience for, but I think the results are totally worth it. While this is finishing up, I wanted to take just a second to let you know that Terry Johnson of Terry Johnson Creates is holding her All Things Silhouette conference in November. Tickets are on sale now, and I will put a link for that in the description as well. Now you can see that the machine has ejected the mat, and our design is in a spot where we can work with it well. If we had placed our design up in the top left-hand corner like we typically do, it would have been very hard to get the foil off of the design so that we could cut our tag out. Once we have removed the foil, we're going to go back over to Silhouette Studio to switch our lettering over to no foil. We're going to select the rectangle and set that to cut. I do have my material set to leatherette. It's a blade depth of 6, force of 33, 2 passes, and a speed of 3. In my trial run, this worked perfectly for me, so I'm going to click on send and then send again. You want to check your cut before you remove the mat from the machine. If it did not cut well, you can adjust your settings and send it through again. This seems to have cut perfectly, so I can take the mat out of the machine, and we've made a cute little leather patch for a beanie. You can use these on baseball caps, shirts, anywhere you would put a leather patch. These are going to be fabulous. Now, when I applied this patch to my beanie, I used Heat and Bond Ultra Hold, and I just followed the directions on the package. So you cut the Heat and Bond to the size you need. You want to measure it against your patch. You don't want it to go over the edges. So I cut mine just a little bit smaller. I ironed the Heat and Bond onto the patch and then ironed the patch onto the beanie. You want to make sure that you use a Teflon sheet or parchment paper over top of your patch when you're ironing it. You don't want the faux leather to melt to your iron. But this is a relatively easy project and the results are amazing. I will be making more of these in the future. Of course you can heat foil on cardstock. This is the gold silhouette foil on black cardstock. It turned out amazing, but I've also had success foiling on acrylic blanks. I have done keychains, I have done bookmarks, and I have done Christmas ornaments, and they are all fabulous. If you need a little bit more inspiration before you start your own heat foiling project, check out the linked videos below, and I will see you in the next video.